Censys Attack Surface Management integrates with ServiceNow Vulnerability Response to incorporate Censys data into your existing risk prioritization workflow and send Censys-discovered assets and risks to ServiceNow. The integration requires a ServiceNow license that includes Vulnerability Response. With this integration, you can automatically sync exposures and vulnerabilities from Censys ASM into ServiceNow VR, map Censys severity metrics and risk details to ServiceNow vulnerable items, and send Censys-discovered assets to ServiceNow for tracking and management. To set up the integration, first request the app from the ServiceNow store. After you get access to the app, open your ServiceNow console and install it from the Plugins menu. Then navigate to the admin section of the Censys ASM app and input the base API URL and your Censys ASM API key. After the connection is established, Censys ASM will start sending data to ServiceNow. Risks that have been detected in your attack surface by Censys ASM can be found in the Vulnerabilities component of this integration. On each vulnerability entry, you can see information about each risk type, including the number of items affected, the severity, and vulnerability details. You can also scroll down to see a list of vulnerable items impacted by the risk. Vulnerable items that have been identified by this integration are also brought into ServiceNow CMDB as configuration items. Additionally, any risky assets that have been identified by Censys ASM will be showed in the vulnerable items list for the integration. As an example, let's take a look at an asset in Censys ASM. In this case, a host asset. In ASM, we see that an open SSH-related vulnerability was detected on the asset. If we jump into our ServiceNow console to view the asset that was brought in as a vulnerable item, we can see pertinent details like the risk score, first found and last found timestamps, vulnerability details, and remediation recommendations. You can also take action from the vulnerable item page to kick off an investigation, mark the risk as a false positive, and other actions. For more information about this integration, reference the documentation for the integration or contact your Censys team.